Hello, as everyone's joining and connecting to audio. Yeah, we're trying out this way with Zoom. So that's why we asked you to keep the video and audio off till the end. And we wanted to try out some things logistically in terms of what I can control for video and audio too. And appreciate everyone being here. So, and thanks as always for all the work you've been doing. I know I've been meeting with many of you individually too. So without further ado, let's get started. I think we'll start with some introductions before we get into the meat of the topic, vision of our company. So Brian, why don't you go ahead and do a brief introduction, even though you already know us, guys, just a little bit about us.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for, first of all the help that, all the work that you've been doing on all the different teams that you've been on. It's been a huge help, and it's great to see the progress that you're all are making. My name is Brian Nufus. I'm originally from Wisconsin. Started to come on out about, it's been about 6 years ago now. My background it was in the finance and real estate industry, and I met my wife, who's Japanese, and I kind of ended up moving and kind of shifting my whole life pattern over the course of a couple of years. And that's how I basically ended up in Japan. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, that's for sure. The last 6 years, I know we've had some recent challenges for sure with the COVID, and this is our first year canceling the program, but it's been a great ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah, thanks. And you guys know me as well, and reiterating the thanks Brian said about all the work on your different teams. But yeah, I'm Matt Pollock, and I started with Come On Out actually back in 2015. Maybe not all of you know this, when it was very much just 10 interns, and Brian interviewed me while I was staying down with my family in San Diego. And in fact, just a little fun fact, I initially was not going to do Come On Out Japan until I talked with Brian and Toshin and was leaning towards some other jobs. And that's history right there, because I've been around ever since, helping Brian with the company in 2015 fall, doing the recruiting. Up until
I still remember that interview, Matt. I was in Apikogan.
Oh, you were?
You remember I was on the ski hill?
Oh yeah.
I still remember that. I was like, see where I am?
Yeah, I think that actually was part of the reason that drew me in, because bonding over that outdoors. But before that, actually, unlike Brian, who lives in Japan now and married to Yasuko, a Japanese person, and more experience with Japan. For me, I hadn't been to Japan before, just briefly a stopover on a vacation. Didn't knew limited things, and so I was really in it for the education and the program from the start. Really liked the mission of the company, and now, of course, certified Japanophile, whatever you call that, and loving my work ever since. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. And then before we get into the questions, I wanted to talk about the remote camp and Global English Camp 2021, which a few people had some questions. So update-wise for Global English Camp 2021 is really simple. We're hoping it's happening. As of now, we can't confirm. And everybody from 2020 is invited back, pending it happening. And in the fall this year, we'll be recruiting virtually and see how that goes. So one of the many new things we've had to deal with, not just a remote camp, but remote recruiting. And then as far as the remote camp, I know many of you here are planning on participating. I'll be sending out an email this week, today or tomorrow actually, with information on an info session for all coaches. I'll be doing some training, as well as sending out a video for everyone to watch of me explaining the entire camp. So that should be fun. And let me know, as always, if you have any questions on that. But it's still good to go for the second and third weekends of August. Very exciting stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more down in our questions here. I also want to thank everyone real quick for the different webinar topics you all proposed. Some were like the virtual study abroad, which Brian and I will be talking about in August with our webinar that we've invited the newsletter subscribers to. Creativity in the ESL classroom, especially in terms of online settings, also is a really important topic, and we'll definitely be getting to that too, as well as other ESL topics, especially with this online and as we continue to expand coming out English. So that's it for updates. And now I'm going to start asking questions to Brian, put him on the spot here. And since the topic of today's webinar is the vision of the company, my first question for Brian is, back before you even knew me, which you can't, I bet you can't even imagine a life without me, but 7 years ago, what was your original vision of the company when you first started coming out? What was the inspiration behind it?
You know, actually, it's funny. It started as a very simple conversation with, you know, our contact with Toshin, and it was kind of like, I don't know, it was kind of like, you know, you draw ideas on the back of a bar napkin or something. You're like, oh, that's a good one. And it was kind of like, you know, do you think foreign students would be interested in coming to Japan to work with high school students? Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Okay, well, how do we do that? And that's kind of how it got started. We actually worked on the curriculum, Yasko actually, and she had some interns as well, that kind of did brainstorming and started working on the very first curriculum before we even started recruiting. So we had worked on it for about a year before I even started making phone calls to universities and stuff like that. But yeah, what a great, you know, opportunity to link, you know, here's this opportunity for university students and graduates and high school students. You know, I've been traveling my whole life. What a great opportunity. So I was very excited about it right away.
Yeah, and yeah, from a bar napkin to 1,200 applicants a year, and was what was meant to be our biggest group this year of 220 interns, not to mention returnees coming back. So very exciting that to see an idea come to what it is now, although very unfortunate that it was canceled this year. So yeah, speaking of, you know, starting off small and trying to bring students to Japan on a, you know, at the time, an unknown company, and just, you know, and going cold calls and things like you did initially, what were some of those initial challenges starting a company to bring students to Japan?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big one. You know, you have your idea of how you want to launch something and what you're going to do in your plan. And with anything that you do, you know, you have to be able to put up with a certain amount of no's, right? I mean, if you want to start your own thing and you want to put yourself out there, I mean, the best way to do it is to get declined as many times as possible, right? So, I mean, yeah, calling universities and, you know, pretty much having people hang up on you, right? Like, oh, what's your name and what are you doing and how many years have you had this program? Well, we haven't yet. This is the first year. Oh, okay. So, you know, trying to get people to trust you and believe in you, you know, I think that's tough especially when you first start something. So, that was the biggest challenge, I would say. And then Toshin needed to come up with students, and we needed to come up with the interns, and trusting your team, you know, I think is important. So getting to know everybody on your team and kind of how they work and how you work. Those are all things I think no matter what you're starting that you're gonna go through some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting because when I first came out of the program, and like I said, we bonded and I was excited about it. And I didn't know, you know, at the time how much you had to go through with students until universities until I started recruiting in that fall. But it's also interesting because in Japan, Toshin is such a household name, and the universities in the US or UK or Canada, I mean, naturally don't know that company. So they know us now.
You know, one thing I would ask you is, why did you take the leap of faith? We had 11 interns that year that were literally getting into a program that the trust there was probably, you know, like, yeah. What made you decide to take that leap of faith? Like,
yeah. And first of all, you know me, and maybe some of the people on here can kind of imagine that I'm a pretty trusting guy, which is a strength and a weakness, I would say. But I took the leap of faith very much for it being a leap of faith, if that makes sense. You know, talking with you, and then I talked with Bill at the time. and having really great conversations, really genuine conversations with passionate people on both sides, really interested me. And the other interviews at the time I did, one was for being a park ranger in Yosemite, and Brian knowing me now in our outdoors, it's hard to turn that down. And other being different teaching jobs in the States, as well as teaching jobs, ESL, which some of you have done, abroad, getting paid and signing a contract. So the leap of faith of this being a new company really excited me. The content and curriculum and mission of it really excited me. And quite frankly, the opportunity to spend 6-7 weeks in Japan rather than signing a year contract and not jumping into something, not knowing if I'd like it. Of course, it turns out I loved it and stuck around, but I think that's really nice, especially for interns too at university. And that's why I did it. Here I am. So let's move on to kind of the main sections of this conversation, which is about COVID and what the challenges surrounding it. So besides, canceling the program or suspending it until next year or beyond, we'll see, just like the Olympics. How do you think coronavirus has affected our company and the goals that we have?
Yeah, I'd like to say that our goals are the same, but things have definitely changed. The entire system has changed in the last 4 months. What we're doing today, we wouldn't even have imagined in February or March. Yeah. And we're not alone. I've talked with multiple companies in multiple countries that, we were all kind of in this together. We were on this team like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Constantly emailing back and forth. Big organizations, big programs, hundreds of thousands of students affected. It's changed a lot of things. I think it kind of puts things into perspective for you on how quickly things can change. On a personal level, traveling for me is my life. I can't imagine. I would have never imagined having this happen, right? Mm-hmm. So then you put it into company perspective, and all of these students, right, that are, let's talk about, high school students in Japan, university students in Japan, and then we have our university students and recent graduates that are going through, similar scenarios. Did you see the CNBC thing from Tarek?
No.
Right. He was on CNBC with 4 other university students, recent graduates, talking about, what are they going to do, about jobs. And, it kind of brings me back to like the way my life has been on freelancing and always doing 5 or 6 different things. Yep. It's kind of like graduates are having to make these same kind of changes in what they're going to do as well. And you have to be constantly working on things, doing an internship, getting experience, doing things online constantly. And I guess our company is kind of doing the same thing. Matt, some of these things we've been talking about for a long time and never had enough time to do. Yeah. All of a sudden in April, we were like, okay, overnight, let's launch Coming Out English and let's get TEFL back up and running.
Yeah.
So, you just got to be constantly ready to just do whatever it takes, I guess.
Yeah.
Is one aspect.
Yeah, that's huge. And what you said about jumping into it in April, and we were fortunate enough, it's not even really a pivot because you and I had been teaching English lessons for a long time privately in Japan, whether it's doing the business lessons with in Japan after the English camp ends or doing online with our different students. And so we've been doing that for a while. So it wasn't so much a pivot as just, let's do this thing for real. And by the way, I have to say thank you to Gwen, who is here, who's been a pivotal part of making that a reality. Really, really helpful creating the site, as well as our team, our intern team here. So thank you, Gwen. I see you are here. So that's been really exciting and challenging. And like Brian said, both he and I have always enjoyed a lifestyle of travel, of course, but running our own schedule, doing multiple things. Some of I do multiple jobs besides teaching, and working. And now I do empathize with graduates who are having to jump into the world at this stage, and so it's tough, and we're right there with you. And but we do I do feel fortunate, Brian, and we talked about this before, that in our industry, of students wanting to go abroad and do these programs, sure, it's canceled, it's really unfortunate, but health and safety always first. However, the international students that are studying abroad and are stuck or facing these really tough decisions, so I'm grateful we don't have to have that and really empathize with those students. But
I've literally had conversations with colleges, universities, high schools, and they're thinking that this is going to impact their students for several years. Even if there's a vaccine, even if things change, it's already put kind of a stigma on traveling abroad, right?
Yeah.
So at least in Japan, I can tell you that it could be a few years before even if it ended today.
Yeah.
It could be a few years before students feel comfortable, and the universities, the schools that they attend feel comfortable sending their students abroad, especially to the US.
Yeah. And
so there's a gap in their curriculum, and that's where, I know one of these questions is coming up, but we talked about the future vision of the company is to help fill that void in an online system, for some of these organizations, because the students still want to talk to foreign students. They still want to have a foreign experience. So things are changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as my research goes, I haven't found a university that's offering, at least in the States, that is offering a fall study abroad program. And I've seen many schools, I believe my alumni has also canceled their winter programs too. So it's already, kind of dripping down. So, we're patiently waiting to see how schools react to their spring's programs and their 2021 summer programs, which could affect us, much earlier than it was last year when we canceled or earlier this year when we canceled this summer's program. But anyways, Brian, since you started to touch on that, one question we had was, the pandemic shifting the company's long-term vision, and you were just talking about study abroad and remote things. So why don't we continue that discussion?
Yeah, so basically we're actively out there trying to find other organizations that need what they need. We're trying to fill the gaps of what other companies need. We started the group lessons. So every weekend we're doing online group lessons, and with the TEFL now. So now we're creating more students that we can have help train teachers. So we're kind of putting everything together. I think, and that's, I guess, the vision of the company in the future is now to help teachers that want to do ESL jobs online, eventually abroad for training, and to link them with students and coaches and other teachers so that we can have a great system for both helping students and for getting people, university students and recent graduates, ready for that next job or becoming a freelance teacher. Let's face it, this online business is absolutely going nuts right now. There's literally 1 billion students that want to learn English, and everything's moved online, and so yeah, we're getting into it a little bit, and we're not one of these companies that's out there buying up market share and whatever. I think we're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the most important thing. There's not huge profit in it. We're just figuring out, things for us to do right now.
Yeah, well, I'll second that. But we are lucky to have some great teachers to teach alongside us right now, and really have some enthusiastic sessions with the kids. And again, another shout out to the design, marketing, and curriculum team for helping be a part of the start of Come On Out English and trying to access this market and give students some meaningful material, resources, and lessons. And also going back to what you said, it's always been a big thing for us in our freelance life, our travel centric life, is we want to help graduates and university students, recent grads and still in school, to find these opportunities that are remote. Because quite frankly, when I was at college at this time, if I, back in years ago, I would be doing an internship 3 days a week, 4 days a week at a film company, grinded my way through it, no pay, 8 hours a day, but I was there in person, and there were opportunities for that. And now, of course, again, that's a different industry, but all industries are affected the same way with having these opportunities. So hopefully we can continue to provide students that, and paid opportunities for ESL teaching. Yeah. How about Come On Out Japan? How about doing our camps in the future? What are some of the more exciting plans we have in store for that, despite the current state of the world?
You mean like other programs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We've been working on that for a couple of years now, and we came really close to having a program in Vietnam this coming summer. I was recently just talking about someone about doing something in Korea. Wouldn't that be great? I already have some domains behind this as well too. I'm just ready. I'm getting ready for it. More programs, more camps. We're going to do. Matt, we had talked about an environmental program.
Yep.
And actually, we're going to launch that here in probably September, but it's going to be online. But, we had plans to do not a remote, but a face-to-face environmental camp here in Japan. So, those are some of the things. Vietnam, it'd be nice to get that back on track. And, Korea would be great. I mean, I guess we want to go anywhere where there's a need, right? Where there's a benefit for the students is one. Mm-hmm. I do some small camps here that I really would like to have some help with in the future. This weekend, I'm doing an English adventure weekend. I have a lot of students that live in Japan that are Vietnamese, and I've gotten into this group, and there's a company that we've done some corporate workshops with for English training their staff. But I have about 18, some parents and children. Some of them are my English students, most are not. But yeah, we're doing like snorkeling and going to the Mira Beach House, going to do a barbecue, and we got a bunch of things planned out. I like these small type of things as well, What else? The Come On Out Adventures, I was set to have a good fall, with that as well, and that got kicked in the pants as well.
And Brian, why don't you, I don't think everyone knows Come On Out Adventures and some of the programs you've been doing there. If you want to give a
so Come On Out Adventures has kind of been my hobby business. I've always been an outdoor person. I'm from northern Wisconsin. I'm really a hick. I love the outdoors. I grew up in a very small town. But anyway, I spent a lot of years in Colorado, and I still go there a couple months out of the year in the fall, and started bringing people from Japan there a few years back. And so we're a licensed outfitter. In Colorado, I got all the gear for basically I could live in the mountains if I wanted to. I thought about it during all this COVID was breaking out. Wouldn't that be the best place to be at 10,000 feet?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would like to open up a summer camp in Colorado and be able to bring students from Japan there during the summers as well. Right now, it's mostly September and October. So yeah, that's been a dream of mine for a long time. I grew up going to summer camps in the summertime, and what a great cultural opportunity it would be to bring students together from two cultures in an outdoor kind of experience for like summer camp.
Yeah, and I've joined the tail end of one of your Come On Out Adventures when our friends from Japan came over, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
And it would certainly be great to expand that, and yeah, a little background on our environmental English camp. I wrote a textbook, not textbook, more of a workbook, with all these activities to involve English with nature based things like hiking or cooking or identifying edible plants, whatever it is. There's was a string of different activities that would encourage learning English while being in the environment. And Brian and I, like you said, we both have a big passion for that. And so I hope you enjoy your Mira weekend, because that sounds a bit like it with English and snorkeling. I'm already jealous. I kind of wish you didn't bring that up so I didn't have to think about it. But
yeah, hopefully the weather is nice. It's been raining here in Japan for over the rainy season has been going on for almost 8 weeks here.
Yeah.
Finally, the sun came out yesterday, but it has been just cloudy and gloomy for well over a month. So I'm ready for some sun.
Yeah.
Of course, once the sun comes out, it's going to be blazing hot and humid for the next month.
Yeah, that's one thing we can all, or everyone here that was going to do the program this summer. We unlike Brian, we are all avoiding the massive humidity in Japan. But otherwise we'd be in the classroom pretty soon. We would have been in the classroom for the English camp right now. So anyways, yeah, that's some of the exciting stuff. The environmental stuff should be great. And if anyone has any questions about that or wants to learn more, you can always email us. It's a big passion of ours, and we think it works nicely combining the English learning and the environment. Very important topic today too. So yeah, just moving on. You mentioned a bit earlier, but just kind of to round it out, the ultimate vision for Come On Out with the TEFL. You just briefly touched upon some of our new services, but just kind of wanted to go back and to have you explain sort of our goals for that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of, to be honest with you, there's a lot of crap out there on the internet right now when it comes to certificates and courses. And, you know, if you look at one advertisement on Instagram or Facebook, next thing you know, everything that comes through is that kind of stuff. And I'm a sucker. So I literally look at all these things. I click on it. So I'm like bait. I'm on like every list that every company has that sells an online product. I look at them, I figure it out. I've purchased multiple things just to see what it is. You know, I'm constantly forwarding new things, Matt, right?
Yeah.
Check this out, check this. What is this? What is that? So I think there's a lot of junk out there. And I know because I bought it. So I want to provide, you know, great opportunities. And now it's really important. We have university students that are about to graduate or going to school that are looking to do ESL jobs. And literally one of the biggest, if not the biggest growing market available on the planet right now is online educating, right? Mm-hmm. So you have all these students that want to learn English, that nobody can travel, right? So, I mean, the timing is perfect for this, and I want to offer something quality. And the TEFL program, I think, is good, is a great start. So we're going to continue to we have the TEFL course, and then we are adding more packages that provide additional services that I don't think you can find elsewhere. As far as, you know, one example is the practicum that we've been wanting to launch for a while, but we just needed the system. So we actually just started. We had our first 2 TEFL graduates this week. Under the new system. So now we can start linking them with students online during these weekend lessons that we're providing. So yeah, I mean, that's, you know, to continue offering, I guess, packages and things that university students and graduates need when, you know, tools and resources that you need to find a job, whether it be a full-time job or a freelance part-time teaching type opportunity. But just to get more resources, I think is really important. And I think we're doing part of that by the TEFL program that we have.
Yeah, that's what we're really hoping. And, you know, Brian, when you send me all your stuff, and I actually read them, I don't archive them all, I promise. But you certainly find a lot. But they do give us ideas, and that's one thing we've noticed, I know, is that all these teaching jobs require teaching experience, or so many do. Not only, you know, sure, most of them require the bachelor's degree, and that gets tricky with university students, or of course the TEFL certificate, but most of the ones, at least the good paying ones, you know, you need teaching experience. And how are you going to get that if you just graduated and hadn't done a program? Or how will you get that in the current state of the world when it has to be virtual? So I know that's one of the other things we're trying to offer, is that students will come in and get these, we'll be able to have a live session with students and get the practice, and say with us behind them saying, yes, they have experience, they taught with us as part of the course. So hopefully we can benefit some students and help those that are emailing us looking for jobs and looking for opportunities like that. That's what we're really hoping for.
Yeah. And, you know, man, how about everyone that hasn't graduated, right?
Yeah.
Most of these positions require either a bachelor degree or a certificate. So if you haven't graduated, like what are university students that used to have jobs doing certain things that aren't available anymore because of the pandemic? Like, what are they doing for work?
Yeah.
Right? There's got to be a huge gap there as well. So this is a great opportunity, I think, to get some experience, to get a certificate, so that you can actually do work while you can do online freelance work while you're going to school, if that's
Yeah.
something that you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's another just alluding to all of our interns here watching, and thank you for wanting to do something like this that's freelance and remote, and very much at the start of something. We appreciate that very much, and hopefully we can provide something in return too. Um, while at 30 minutes, I wanted to ask you one more question, Brian. I wanted to ask people to test this out, and maybe this isn't the typical webinar setup on Zoom, but if anyone has questions that have come up during the meeting, which I should have said at the start, apologies. If you could take this time while Brian and I are discussing the next question to type in the chat, and then we can do a Q&A at the end. And at the end, we can have the videos on too, since it is a small group. But just wanted to test out the chat and see if I can keep up if any questions come in. So feel free to type away. And Brian, the one last question I wanted to ask you that we will be talking about in a month for the newsletter about the future of study abroad. And you and I have had lots of discussions about this and how we are going to tackle this and how we can provide opportunities for students here and abroad, everywhere, just like Coming Out Japan does. So what are your thoughts about where study abroad is going? And have you read anything interesting, or do you have any ideas of where this industry will be headed, not just for schools, but for programs?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with university staff. We've had a couple webinars that we've both been involved with as well. I think it depends on who you talk to and where they are.
Yeah.
I told you how many people I've talked to in Japan feel that it's going to be changed for the years to come. I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah.
No one really knows what's going to happen. I mean, we're literally like, there's still schools in limbo for this fall if they're going to literally go. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I think it's literally a monthly thing, and it depends a lot on this COVID. I mean, it's like there's constantly being things that are changing. Nobody knows what's going on. I mean, it's kind of a really difficult time to be in. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of false information out there. There's facts that are going around as well. So people are kind of sorting through this on their own and figuring out what they're going to do for their institution. So I hope that we have our program next summer. I want nothing more than to get traveling again.
Yeah.
But honestly, with Japan and the type of mentality that many people are in Japan, with being safety first and a little conservative when it comes to those things.
Right.
I think we'll have foreigners in Japan before we have Japanese students going to other countries. I feel fairly certain with that scenario.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear, actually, from you, that would happen first, but not surprising due to Japan and their hygienic standards and how do they treat things like this, and not to get too much into it, but obviously Japan as a country has done a little bit of a better job than the United States, for example, at controlling this thing. So we're kind of we're kind of waiting to see how we recover to open up. But I brought it up also because I've also read so many conflicting articles from universities, from study abroad programs that are saying, oh yeah, we're going to have it in 3 months, to, oh, we're canceling the entire 2020-21 school year. It's all done. And so it's really tough for us at this time when there's no parallel guidelines. Everyone's doing a different thing. Everyone's reacting differently, including universities, which we've always used as sort of a guiding light since we work with them so closely. A quick example is my school that I usually teach at, middle school, up until last week was saying their school was starting August 17th and that I was expected to start substituting that then. And they only just canceled. So online, but they actually are testing out a program with half students like Japan's doing in the classroom. So there's all these differing things, and I just want to get into a preview of that since we're going to talk about that a lot in a month or 2 weeks rather at the start of August. Okay, so a couple questions that came in. Here's a quick and easy one, at least for now. Are the dates for the 2021 program going to be the same?
You want to bring up the videos of everyone? That'd be cool to see.
Oh yeah, we can. Let's do the videos now, if you want to. There's no pressure. The official, webinar portion of the webinar, or the Brian and Matt portion of the webinar has now commenced, or has now ended, and everyone is now. Can you guys turn on your video? Actually, this is a technical question. You can. Yeah. Okay.
And we can unmute them too, probably, Matt.
Yeah. But you guys can all do it yourself, right? Okay. I was messing around with some settings on seeing if we could control the muting and the video canceling, and to make it, webinar-y where we have control, but no.
Yeah. So maybe the person that asked that question can actually ask it.
That was Kelly. She had 2 questions, so you can.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the dates for 2021 will be the exact same as the ones that were intended for this year.
Usually it's not the exact dates because just like a Friday falls on a different day.
Yeah.
But usually the summer break in Japan is about the same amount of time. It's like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I have to bring up the calendar.
I have the calendar. I imagine our retreat weekend, or rather our orientation weekend, where everyone arrives and we all stay at a hostel in Tokyo together, and it's sort of the pre-training fun times, welcome dinner. For those of you who have done it know that. That would be July 9th and July 16th of 2021. So tentatively, and the first training week would be 12th of July and 19th of July.
Yeah, and last year was the first year we started doing the Group A and Group B, and that worked out really well. But it also provides, I think, interns with a little bit more flexibility. So, in the end, we have 2 different start dates and 2 different end dates.
Yep. Yeah, that was the first time we did that this past summer. It worked out nicely. Wasn't too much of a logistical headache as we anticipated, so that worked out. And who knows if that changes in the future too. And then Kelly, your other question.
I was curious if in the future Come On Out does end up going to Vietnam or Korea. I'm assuming it would be in the summer, but would there be like overlap? Would you have multiple programs like in Japan and Korea and Japan going on at the same time? Or are you solely dedicating the summer to one specific area?
Well, Vietnam's summer break is a little bit different than Japan, so it works out really well. So they're off mostly in June and part of July. So that system would work out pretty well. But yeah, absolutely, we would have multiple programs going on at the same time in multiple countries. Japan has like the shortest summer break out of like any country. It's super short. And in fact, this year, the students are only going to get like just shy of 2 weeks off. But yeah, to answer your question, there would be technically at some points, depending on the countries that going on. The summer is the most popular time. And to be honest with you, financial feasibility has a lot to do with it as well. It's very difficult for us to afford to fly students to the other side of the world for 1 week. Like if we were to do like a holiday break, like over Christmas or over the winter. So that's why this program works out well, because we have basically 5 weeks of classes during the summer. It's hard to offer the amount of subsidies that we do if we don't have enough students.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big sunk cost of basically lodging, and the airplane ticket actually is the big one. So in order to continue to offer the subsidies that we do, the summer works out the best currently.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thanks.
Yeah, and what we've noticed actually in our research of other companies that are doing these shorter programs for university students in the summer is that the plane tickets are not covered as well. So that it makes us different, but it also, yeah, provides that extra challenge to,
Or there's a lower subsidy.
or or not like the whole ticket. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. Does anyone else have any questions? That's it. I mean, we appreciate. Oh,
I actually had a question.
thanks.
I was kind of curious if you think there's going to be a change in like abroad, like willingness to work with people from the U.S. just due to the way
Oh.
things have been handled, like here. And I know there's like a lot of stigma, so I'm just curious if you think that will be like coming up in the future.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Because you're in Japan right now, so.
I think that there is billions of dollars of lost tourism that we haven't even felt yet in the United States, and maybe a little bit as well in the UK. I think that's possible. We share a lot of common mentalities, I think, the British and the Americans. I don't think it's going to affect people coming to Japan as much, but it's going to affect people going. I mean, what's going on right now, and specifically the States, is affecting it is affecting our tourism in the United States. The mentality of people in Japan before this pandemic was that America is unsafe. We have a lot of gun violence, right? That does not exist in this country. So now you see all these things in the media, and I unfortunately, I think it's only going to be worse. I think there's going to be less and less people that are coming to the United States, at least, as far as, they're students, they're kids. Like what parent in Japan right now wants to send their child to the United States right now? There's so many things going on, let alone just to go there for a holiday or something, And then you read about the current students that are in the States, in that they were going to get kicked out all of a sudden on a whim, right?
Yeah.
They had to all go home. I mean, it doesn't help. So I don't know what the future is for that, but for time being, I think it's coming to a halt as far as the people that want to at least go to Japan or go to the United States. But as far as I think foreign students coming to Japan, once things open up, I don't think there's any issues with that. You always get the questions from people, though. Just like when the elections were going on, I had so many people that would come up to me and ask me about Trump. Everyone was curious. Is he going to get elected? So people in Japan, they see these things on the media and they want to talk about it. So yeah, people do come up to me and ask me about the American politics a lot. I do get that. So they're still curious, but there's concern there as well. Hopefully, hopefully I answered some of your question.
It's a great question, Lexa, because I'm definitely worried about that. And in general, not just for study abroad, but just in general, people not wanting to come, like Brian said, with tourism, but other things too. And, when we first talked about, just to bring it up, when we first were talking about the English camp and the status of that early on in COVID, the early days of March or February, there was talk when Japan was still allowing people to come over and do the quarantine. Remember, Brian? And how at times we were talking with Japan about doing a quarantine for training. And then after those 2 weeks passed, go in and teach. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility, but it's an interesting thing that was brought up when it first started. Of course, it turned out to be a lot worse than it originally expected. But
how many of the people in the call right now are going back to school this fall? 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many of you are physically going back for classes? You know already, Larissa? Yeah. So you're going to physical classes. It's not online.
Yeah, well, I'm a nursing student, so I have to we're going to the hospital and stuff. And like, I think we're having at least lab in person, but lectures are still online and everything, just the lab and clinical.
Yeah, Matt, is yours?
I think some of my classes are going to be in person, but most of them are going to be online, I'm pretty sure.
Kelly?
I have the option to do it online because I'm actually, my school's in, I'm starting a grad program in the UK. So
Yeah.
they are giving people the option to do the first semester online, or you can come and have like 60-70% of your content online, and then the rest is sectioned off into smaller.
I see. How about you, Megan?
Yeah, they've told us that most of the classes will be online, but some might be in person, but they haven't said what will be in person.
So 30 days from now, you're
Yeah.
going to be starting something, and basically no one knows for sure what's going on, right? Yeah. Lexa, are you in the same boat?
I graduated, so
Okay, so
Chilling.
what challenges are you facing then?
well, I'm unemployed, so but I did start going back to work actually, so but just looking to do more things online with teaching, and I don't know, because I was gonna maybe substitute, and I don't really know where things are going with school, so I just thought I would wait, try and get the certification, but like it's kind of a mess, so I'll just wait and see what happens there, not jumping into anything.
Yeah, that's tough to graduate and also be going into teaching. And Lexa, just while we're here, but in case I forget, just to give you some advice from what's happened to me in substitute teaching. I don't know if it's different in Michigan, but in California, if you are you are certified or not, whether you're certified or not, if you're on the sub list, you can apply for, on the school will pay unemployment, since online subbing is not, I don't know about Michigan again, but I don't want to like say they're not doing a good job, but my schools in LA are not doing a great job of getting online stuff available at all. So if you're not on the list, you should get on it. You can get some unemployment funds too. But that's tough, and good luck.
Thanks everybody for the feedback. I wanted to make sure. I was curious myself of what's going on, and I hear things, and you guys are in it firsthand, so.
And Larissa's going to hospitals to do stuff, so really at the forefront there. Good luck and stay safe. And I guess, well, Kelly, you're yeah, UK, so abroad, and Megan, you're on the wrong side of the country right now too, so you have to kind of wait and see that if you're even going to fly and whatnot as well. That's tough. Yeah. Well, that kind of confirms our research, as the schools maybe aren't as not transparent, what's the right word, like not as quick to keep everyone updated, I guess, as it just seems to be a common theme with my alumni too. UCLA, I've been checking in with staff there, and yeah, it's just a wait and see approach, which is unfortunate for you guys that are experiencing it firsthand.
Also, I think just in the end, they don't know what to do. Things are changing so quickly, right? You make one decision, half of the people will disagree with you. You make the other decision, the other half disagree with you. So, I mean, it's really hard to make decisions right now. So I think that has a big part of it as well. So we're facing that on a daily basis. I appreciate everybody, the time that you put in. Thank you very much. Matt, is there any other things here? Or we
yeah, that was it. If anyone had any other questions, go ahead. Otherwise, you can always email us. And just wanted to say thanks again. I'll send a quick follow-up email and just a couple questions to ask for some feedback. One, obviously we wanted to do it with you guys first. You're working with us, and we realized maybe you didn't know as much about the background of Brian and myself, and of course Gwen working too. But also we're doing that newsletter webinar, and that will probably, I mean, definitely have more people. So testing out this service, I know Gwen and I were doing research all day, or not all day today, but before this, trying to figure out webinar systems. So if you have any other like technical feedback too, about if you think this would work for a larger group in this kind of setting, and I'm just gonna have you think between like 30, 40, 50. I'll send a follow-up email with some questions and would appreciate any and all feedback. So thank you. right, that's
Thank
it.
you, everyone.
All right, I will see some of you soon. And
Thank you, everybody.
yeah, have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, good to see you all.
See you.